Hey folks, if you've been struggling with understanding your FBA payments from Amazon versus your bookkeeping, this video just might help you. I wanted to create and share this video to folks who are relatively new FBA resellers who may have stumbled a bit in trying to solve their Amazon bookkeeping challenges when doing their bookkeeping and/or accounting during their first year of sales. I wanted to share this experience with you and later discuss how I came to eventually solve this problem using a super affordable service which plugs directly into QuickBooks Online. Now, my son and I both have full-time other jobs, and we were experimenting with Amazon FBA, selling some private label products online. In 2018 was our first year of sales, and we were using QBO to capture all of our sales and expenses. Now, to help with my end of year work, I was working with a traditional but experienced QuickBooks bookkeeper who was assisting me to prepare my books, create my end of year P&L and balance sheet so that my tax service could then create my federal and state tax forms. At the time, I was not paying attention so much to Amazon's detailed biweekly sales settlement statements. I was just selling, receiving Amazon payments, and paying my expenses. Now, a surprise came when my bookkeeper said that at the end of the year, my Amazon payments, when we sum them up, they don't match the 1099, and they need to, and we need to figure out the difference. Now, as an example, my 2018 sales were X, and Amazon paid me about 60% of X in terms of cash payments back. So there was a big gap there. So we had to figure out where the other 40% went so that we could tie out with the 1099 sales number that was generated and given to me by Amazon for our product sales. It was a painful and long task, but we took that 1099 and began to piece together the pieces, and in the end, we got it to tie out. Now, even though we went through that experience, it was not a lot of fun, and I was still a little bit fuzzy about the exercise, but we did make it work. Now, with my 2018 taxes behind me, I wanted to be sure to get in front of this problem so I would not experience that end of year crisis again. Now, my bookkeeper had convinced me to drop QuickBooks Online at the end of 2018 and instead adopt the desktop version. And I mulled that over and I eventually went that route. Now, unless you've been doing Amazon FBA sales for a while, bookkeeping with Amazon seems a bit different from a traditional business. And so I started to do research online, and there were not a lot of answers out there. My bookkeeper was not exactly in the modern world of e-commerce accounting, but I did encourage her to learn more. But unfortunately, I knew I needed to go another path. And so my journey took me off into 4 different directions, which I'd like to explain. First, in my online search, I did find through the weeds online a self-authored online PDF book and video series from a lady. She was a FBA reseller who had her own process of pulling down the Amazon statements and running them through Excel. Now, while her process probably worked, it was very mechanically oriented, very task oriented. I found it a bit drawn out, and I quickly learned that I, with a full-time job, did not have time to invest the time necessary to net out the most important things to solve my problem. I was looking for that magic button. My next journey took me out to Facebook, where I belong to an Amazon FBA Facebook group where a number of sellers that I reached out to, and I asked about who are you using, how are you solving your problem. And so they came back with a couple of leads who they said were familiar with the process, and I reached out to both. Now, both of these seemed very competent, but the first one wanted $650 a month to take care of my books. Now, she was full service. It was a little bit overkill, and it's more than I needed. And the other one wanted $200 a month. Now, both of them did require QuickBooks Online, which I was now on the desktop version. But, it was July and I was getting a little nervous and I already had let half the year go by and my books were behind. My business was small and I really did not want to shell out this amount of money at this time because I wanted to use that money to expand my business. I also had stumbled across some online software services which claimed to provide integration from Amazon to QuickBooks Online and solve the problem I was seeking. Since I was on desktops, it was less than interesting. I was wanting to see if I could solve it and keep my desktop. But 2019 was moving along quickly, and I knew I had to get my books up to date. So I followed my fourth path is I decided to hire an FBA knowledgeable bookkeeper and or accountant to bring my books up to date. And I reached out to Upworks, which I will give them credit. It's a very good site. I had a lot of respondents. I narrowed it down quickly, and I did hire one. And I asked this person to bring my books up to date, giving him all my bank statements and all my settlement statements. All my transactions had run through my bank on my credit card account, so it was pretty clean. Wasn't a lot of transactions, but I just said, hey, I didn't have the time, just do it. And so I did hire him on a per hour basis. He was very good. It cost me $850 with all the add-ons that Upwork provided. But in the end, he brought my books up to date and he properly categorized all of my Amazon expenses from my settlement statements into QuickBooks. And I wanted to retain him on a monthly basis. And I knew it was probably just a couple, 3 hours a month, but he wanted $350 a month just to retain him. And so I found this quite ridiculous for my small business with so few transactions. So we both happily parted ways um, for the moment. Now, I will say that one benefit I did learn from hiring this accountant, I began to see how he summarized the Amazon settlement states into transactional data and he posted those into QuickBooks. That was very helpful. I could see now in QuickBooks online reports my true Amazon product sales and the individual Amazon expense categories like my ad spending, the PPC spending, my product returns, shipping charges, all the detailed micro transactions that you see inside of your settlement statement. And this was totally useful. Now, learning what the accountant taught me, I then turned back to the software services. I was now back on QuickBooks Online. I didn't want to pay this, the exorbitant, $200 or $650 a month for a CPA or accountant to do. And so there was a couple, three products out there. The one that probably stuck out the most was A2X, but then I stumbled across another product called Taxomate. But before I discovered Taxomate, I'd already signed up for A2X and I pulled in one of the settlement statements and I go, oh, wow, this is how this works. This is what it does. And it made a lot of sense. But then I was looking at Taxomate and its charges, its monthly service fees versus A2X. Taxomate's $20 a month for my level of service. A2X was $50. And then what I found out was both products offer similar capabilities, but Taxomate provided a solution that met my needs for 40% of the cost. And so what I'd like to do is shift my focus to Taxomate and kind of give you a quick demo. And then I want to run through some slides exactly to show you exactly what it's kind of doing behind the scenes. And I'm hoping that you'll get that aha moment and really consider one of these products. Consider Taxomate because I think for the price you just can't beat it. So I just want to do a quick flyover of Taxomate, then I want to go back into more of a discussion. So right now we're looking at the Taxomate dashboard, and so you can see your settlement statements for the year, or at least for my year. And I'm currently, I think I'll end up the year for around 70,000 total product sales, Last year I did about half of that. But anyway, you can see all the different settlement statements which posted, and you can see the payments that Amazon paid out through the year. And then you can actually drill down on these settlement statements by going to the settlement tab, and you can see a number of the settlements. Actually, you can see each one of the settlements which occur inside of Taxomate. And Taxomate will go out and automatically retrieve those. It'll check Amazon every day for new settlement statements, and it will pull those down. Now you'll notice that some of them are orange, have orange bars, and some of them have blue bars. The blue bars I've actually pushed over into QuickBooks, and I've just started using Taxomate to push these over into QuickBooks. And once you feel comfortable with it, you can have Taxomate automatically push those into QuickBooks during each posting of your settlement statements. Now you can double click into your settlement statements. You'll see a summary ID here. You'll see sales and fees here. There's actually two of them here. This was the settlement statement actually was over a split month, so part of it was in August and part of it was in September, and so you can see it split out there. Additionally, you can drill down and you can see the summarization of all the items, and I'll get into this a little bit more detailed later. Additionally, you can use it to put your inventory into it. You can see your inventory reports, and so it'll pull those down so you can see what those are. And it'll also, you put your cost in, and then it'll give you your cost of goods report. You have your settings over here. You can do your connections. So here's your connections to your Amazon account and to your QuickBooks account. So Taxomate actually sits between Amazon and QuickBooks, and so it pulls data from Amazon and then it pushes data to QuickBooks. And so you have to establish those connections on both sides. Now, if you already have your account set up for your income and your expenses, you can, and you already have those defined in QuickBooks, you can have Taxomate post to those accounts, or you can set up, you can just quickly pick up the default settings that Taxomate recommends. Additionally, there's information about your account, your credit card, your subscription, and then they have a number of support documents. Now, Taxomate is a new company. A2X has been in the business longer, but Taxomate is kind of an aggressive price. I would encourage you to read through their documentation. The product is easy to use, but they are still working to complete a lot of their support documents. Both products scale extremely well, and depending on your number of transactions, they have different pricing plans. But Taxomate, you know, for the dollar, it's the best bang for the buck. So with that, what I'll do now is I want to kind of give you an idea of how Taxomate goes through the process and matches up your sales and show you some reports that you can get out of QuickBooks as a result of Taxomate making those posting for you. So I want to walk through this next section, and I hope this is beneficial to you. I'm the type of person that wants to know how things are done, and so I'm going to give you an overview of what Taxomate really does for you, and hopefully you will appreciate this. So we're going to go a little bit behind the scenes. So every, you know, it depends on your frequency, but in my case, as an Amazon FBA seller, I get a settlement statement every 2 weeks, and it gets posted under the Amazon reports, payments, and all statements from Seller Central. And if you've ever gone there, you can download those in CSV format. I think there's maybe another format you can download it. But in this particular one, there was over 1,500 rows. And essentially, you know, this is all your orders. This is all your detailed transactional pieces that happens, and it's not pretty to look at. And this is where Taxomate really comes in to show its power. So the settlement statement is, you know, it's not user friendly. It's really not directionally actionable. And you could summarize it in a pivot table if you wanted to. But anyway, we talked where you can download those. But what Taxomate actually does, and this is the value that it brings to you. And there's 3 process steps. Now, this can be fully automatic or it can be kind of semi-automatic. And I have mine set up for semi-automatic right now, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that. But when you set up your account, as we talked earlier with Taxomate, you establish a link between Taxomate and your Amazon seller account, and then you also establish a link between Taxomate and your QuickBooks account. Now, after those are set up, Taxomate will go out and auto fetch your Amazon.com statement. So that's step 1. And so it will bring those down, and then those will get imported into Taxomate. And this is where the magic of Taxomate comes into place. From there, you'll see your settlement statements in the Taxomate tool into the web app. And then you can review those one by one. And then you can manually push those. I think I showed that earlier in the demo from the page, or you can have Taxomate automatically push those. So I would advise you to maybe just start off, doing a few and then set it up for fully automatic. So you can just put it on autopilot. But irregardless, whether you manually push those over or you have Taxomate push those over, when they do get pushed over, which is in step 3, Taxomate will automatically map those to your QuickBooks Online account mapping. Now, I have mine set up by the Taxomate defaults. They've done a good job of putting those into the right buckets inside of QuickBooks. Or if you have pre-established accounts, maybe you've made up yourself, you can certainly put those over, and then Taxomate will push those into it. Once they are pushed over into Taxomate, we're looking at QuickBooks here. If you go to your sales, you go to your invoices, you can see invoice 1021 here. It's pushed over. It's Amazon.com customer, and you can see the deposit that it's made. And so those will show up as deposits within QuickBooks. And that's when all the postings. Now this is what a settlement statement might look like. Going back, this is actually an Excel summary here, but you can see the amounts there. There's positive numbers, which are black numbers, and negative values. And this is kind of a summary. Actually, this is from Taxomate. I said Excel, but this is from Taxomate. This is their settlement summary that I exported, and I put it into Excel. And I wanted to show you that. It'll make a little more sense here in a minute. But here's a Taxomate posting. So this is a drill down of the invoice. So this QuickBooks invoice was created by Taxomate, and then the QuickBook entries are matched from your account settings. And I talked a little bit about the default settings or the user definable ones. So again, this is invoiced 1021. It came out to what ended up being what Amazon was going to pay me of $982.41. But you can see with the red arrows there, you can see the accounts where it's depositing. So Amazon sales, you can see the 2137 and the 9978. There's also some refunds and some fulfillment fees and et cetera, et cetera. This is a long invoice. I'm only showing part of it here. Back to the settlement statements, I kind of separated out that slide from a couple of slides ago. I put all the positive values over on the left, which are typically income, tax collected, and then some reserves that might be there. And then on the right is all your negative values. So you can see these are all your expense items. And so when you looked at the totals, the income was $3353.07. And then all the expenses was $2370.66. And then you have your holdbacks. And then your Amazon deposit of $982.41. That makes those numbers tie out. So when Taxomate posts the invoice, it'll push in all the expenses and revenue. And then when your bank deposit comes in, and then they will all tie out, and your QuickBooks will look beautiful, which is what we all want it to be. So a couple more things I'd like to do before I wrap up here. I'd like to first give a plug for Taxomate. the product. I just want to give you a few points about what the product's capable of doing. Where my problem started last year is when I did receive my 1099K, and then I balanced that against what Amazon paid me. It was a big hole. And so really Taxomate allows you to send those your regular Amazon settlement statements over to either QuickBooks or Xero, and do all the proper accounting there. So you'll be really happy about how that happens. And I didn't mention Xero. It also supports Xero, although I'm using Intuit QuickBooks Online. It also does all the reconciliation. Your Taxomate invoices, your settlement statements will come over, and they'll get posted to QuickBooks. And then when you get your deposit from Amazon, they'll all match up. Beautiful. You can also use the feature, the COGS, cost of goods tracking. So you can track your cost of goods sold into Taxomate and send that invoice over. A big selling point against, I think it's probably its biggest competitor, is the unlimited marketplace. So if you sell in other countries or have other marketplaces, Taxomate does not place any limits on that. So that's a big benefit. And other features it has is split settlements. Of course, when a settlement passes over 2 months or crosses months, that split out for you. So if you're tracking all your accounting by month, that's great. It also supports in other countries, multi-currency. You can have multiple users, and as we talked about, it does support a different number of country marketplaces. Okay, final points. My last comments. So this whole situation took me on a journey. I knew I had a problem, and I knew there was a solution out there. And I just had to look for it. So I went looking for it. Now, I started off, as I said in the beginning of this video, that there was a bookkeeper that I had become acquainted with, but she was not familiar with Amazon settlement processes. And then when we did get the surprise at the end of the year, we kind of had to manually piece things together. But she wasn't able to articulate, the what were the problems. I'd hoped she'd learned, but she really didn't know where to go. So secondly, I solicited references from other Amazon FBA business owners, and they referred me to their bookkeepers, or most of them were CPAs, and I talked about their services. They weren't cheap. I'm a small business. I don't mind paying it, but if my business doesn't support, if they're getting all of my profits, then it's not worth it for me. I also looked at some e-commerce contractor websites, and I did find some. And he was able to bring my books up to date, albeit in a different way. He made a match, but his ongoing requirements to do it every month was a little bit more than I wanted to pay. And so he wasn't interested. Neither was I. But lastly, the automated web services, Taxomate, was perfect for me. Their onboarding process, while smooth, was a little foreign for me because I didn't really understand what was going on. But once I had that aha moment, it was really great. And so they got a good product there, and it worked just like magic for me. So give it a shot. You'll be very happy with it.